Welcome to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast, where you can learn and be inspired by real-world examples of how technology is transforming businesses and reshaping industries in a language everyone can understand. Here is your host, Neil C. Hughes.
Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast. Do we have any Mac users listening today? Have you bravely hit the upgrade to Apple Catalina button yet? For those of you that don't know, Apple no longer supports 32-bit apps, so many people have upgraded and then found out that all those legacy apps that they rely on, along with a few surprises such as Adobe Creative Suite as well, no longer works, leaving some to call it Apple's Vista, comparing it to the troubled Windows operating system of yesteryear. But this got me thinking. Back in my IT days, you never updated an operating system until you were 100% sure that all your apps were compatible, and usually people would typically wait for the first service pack to arrive and remove any of those problems. But it occurred to me after reading this over the last few days is that, I think for the last 10 years in this mobile-first digital world we find ourselves, we're now used to updating mobile devices automatically to keep us safe from all those security loopholes. And let's be honest, life has been pretty good for 10 years doing that. But this latest release from Apple, it seems to have taken us back to the days of dreading an operating system release. So maybe it's time for us all to be a little bit more IT savvy before hitting that upgrade button. But hey, let me know your Catalina update experiences by emailing me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, or tweeting me at Neil C. Hughes. But on with today's show. And I'm genuinely excited to get today's guest on, because we're going to be talking to the CEO and founder of a company called Persuit. And they're a relatively tiny tech firm that is working with some of the biggest names in Fortune 100 companies. And what I love most about this one is Jim's story, because it's not your average tech story. It's got a huge beating heart right in the middle of it. And as much as I want to talk about it right now, I don't want to reveal any spoilers. So come with me on a trip to New York City so we can speak with Jim, who's ready to tell us his legal tech story. And trust me, you're in for a treat. So a massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little bit more about who you are and what you do?
Thank you, Neil. So my name's Jim Delkousis, and I'm the CEO and founder of a company called Persuit. And Persuit is essentially a bidding platform for in-house legal teams to scope their work and send it out to their law firms and get competitive and transparent pricing. That's it in a nutshell. No doubt we'll talk a bit more about it as we go through the podcast.
Cool. Now, one of the things that I love to do on this podcast is to learn a little bit more about the very human story behind every tech company. So can I ask that you tell me a little bit more about how you spent, I think it was 15 years as a high-powered lawyer in Australia and Dubai, and then decided that, hey, this industry wasn't doing its clients right. So can you tell me a little bit about that and what put you on this path?
Neil, it was a combination of factors. I had the turning 50 crises and wondering what 50 to 60 was going to look like, and whether it was exactly the same as 30 to 40 and 40 to 50. So that was one factor, and just looking at buyer and seller relationships across other industries and sectors, and the fact that they were typically transparent, there was competition, and there was choice. And thinking about the industry that I was in, the legal industry, there was very little of that, and just casting my mind, thinking about what does it look like in not just 1 and 2 years, but what do I think it's going to look like in 5, 10, 20 years' time? And I was convinced that those factors of transparency, competition were going to exist. And with so much of the world digitizing, if you like, it just seemed to me that all those factors would combine to change the way that legal services were being bought, sold at the high end of town, if you like, amongst the major corporates and the major law firms.
Man, it seems you're a bit ahead of your time. Do you have a crystal ball going on there?
No, I don't, just a little bit of naivety and stupidity and all of that kind of stuff, and found, I suppose, not so much vision, but just thinking about what do things look like? What do they likely to look like? And you have to have some naivety, I can tell you, because you never know how hard it is at the beginning. It's all kind of, you typically look at it with rose-tinted glasses at the beginning of the journey. But I think you need to, because if you really knew how hard it was, I think you'd think twice before moving on. But yeah, so that's a combination of those factors, but certainly thinking about the legal industry and transparency in that industry being much more prominent than it currently was.
So rather than get a Lamborghini and hair transplant and all that kind of thing, you quit your job.
I quit my job, which paid an obscene amount of money every year. So I actually think I do need my head read. Think about it. And you can think about imagine the discussion with my wife. Hey, sweetheart, you know what's been happening? You know how we've been earning a truckload of money every single year and life is fantastic. I've got a thought. Why don't we give that all away? Why don't I sell legal tech to lawyers? How hard can that be? So how do you think that discussion went down?
An industry, of course, as well, that's famously slow to adapt to change and technology as well. So it's a tough sell, isn't it?
There is some truth in that, yeah. Typically there has been, I think that's starting to change, but certainly it's I won't call it a tech-resistant industry, but certainly it does have its challenges.
Yeah. So you quit your job, moved to the US as well to build Persuit, a firm that lets clients offer up legal projects for law firms to bid on. But can you tell me more about Persuit itself and the kind of problems that you set out to solve with that platform?
Well, corporates typically spend tens, if not hundreds of millions of dollars or pounds on outside law firms. But there's really no way of knowing whether you're overpaying and what the price should actually be. It's typically just on an hourly rate of $500, $700, $1,000 or more. And you typically end up paying however long it took the law firm to complete the work. And when you did want to find out whether there was other pricing, what the price should be, it was a painful process. You would have to create an RFP of some kind. You'd have to send it out. Law firms would respond. Some poor soul would receive these documents and try and put them in a spreadsheet and trying to work out what the comparison was and which one was better value. So all very painful. And what Persuit seeks to do is essentially streamline and automate all of that and make it easy to create the scope of work, get it out there to the law firms, and for law firms to basically competitively price without all of the pain that was typically associated when you did try and get competitive pricing without an automated process to assist you.
Well, although it might have seen a risky move at the time, it certainly seemed to pay it off because, I mean, now you've got Walmart, Shell, Johnson & Johnson, and they're just a few clients on your roster. So I'm curious, what is it these high-profile clients love about Persuit, do you think?
Well, it's clearly that we are solving a problem they see, and there's a number of aspects to it, but certainly those clients that were already undertaking the process of trying to seek and obtain competitive pricing, we're doing it all manually. So just automating those manual processes and saving time and energy. So that's no doubt part of it. Doing it in an easy and intuitive way. We talk about consumerizing what's typically been clunky and difficult to use enterprise applications. And that's what everyone's getting used to now. So just making it easy, delivering value. Clients love that. But what they love the most is what we call our auto negotiator. And that's when law firms revise their pricing real time before the clients in a window of opportunity or a window of time to essentially become more competitive. So they can see where they rank, and real time they'll revise their pricing, and our clients love to see pricing go from what law firms would love to be paid to what they're prepared to be paid. So I think that's probably the highlight feature.
Fantastic. So do you have any use cases there that you can share that will help any business leaders listening and help them understand where you provide the most value and how that works?
Sure. Look, even in the last month or two, we've had a couple of examples where a client has created a scope of work and sent it out to its panel of law firms. So it's the same scope of work, but the differential in pricing has been as much as 10 times. So just repeat that, 10 times. So one firm, let's say, quoting $500,000, and the other firm at the other extreme quoting $5 million. Now we're talking about the same scope of work here. Yeah. And it's clearly part of the, you actually don't know what something will cost until you've asked. So that's one use case. But when those firms then get to see where they rank relative to their competition, then the price changes are extraordinary, are in the millions of dollars. So could you imagine getting a scope of work out there to your clients being offered $2 million for that service, and then after a negotiation period, that coming down to less than $1 million? And that's a recent use case that we've also had. So that's the kind of competition and value that we're able to deliver to clients, as I said, scoping their work, getting out to their law firms and law firms competing and delivering and getting to what a true market price is, rather than typically, as I say, what used to happen in an opaque market for pricing legal services.
And as this is a tech show, of course, a question I've got to ask is, what is the role of technology over there at Persuit? And what does it enable you to do that possibly, wasn't possible 10 years ago in the legal industry?
Yeah. So Persuit is all about technology. We're a pure SaaS company, so we don't have a services component. So technology is key. And essentially using that technology so that organisations and clients can scale throughout their organisation the ability to achieve transparent, comparing and competitive pricing, which typically couldn't be done in the past. It was decentralised, and legal services were typically just bought on the phone, if you like, or through email by the particular buyers within a corporate. But being able to centralise all of that buying, and then because it's centralised and you have access, or the corporates have access to all of the buying decisions, all of the pricing for different kinds of work, then they're able to make, we talk about making data-driven. I know lots of people talk about making data-driven decisions, but in the context of buying legal services, if you capture that data, soon you'll be able to know what a particular kind of service in a particular jurisdiction should cost you, because you've captured that data previously in relation to by buying those services, or someone else on the platform, anonymised, has bought similar services. And that's certainly part of the longer term vision of Persuit, being able to collate the anonymised data and deliver that back to the client, so that clients will be able to have basically predictive ability on what certain services should cost in certain jurisdictions at any given point in time.
And of course, there is a huge explosion in legal tech right now. Like we mentioned a few moments ago, the industry does have a reputation for being slow to adapt to change. I mean, is that still true, or is it a complete myth now?
Look, there's always a little bit of truth, as you know, Neil, in myths. And it's probably true that the typical lawyer personality has a risk-averse nature. And sometimes that does mean it's a little challenging on the adoption of technology. But what I can say about lawyers and law firms is that they are really quick to respond to the requirements of their clients. They are excellent service providers. So if clients are asking for change, law firms, as I said, are quick to respond. They've got a reputation, and it's true, for being fast followers. I often say, Neil, that lawyers love to be first to be second. So...
And as an unconventional founder who has disrupted a huge industry, what do you think it was that made this, or what do you think the secret is to making Persuit such a big success that it is?
I'd love to say there were some secrets, but no real secrets. It's the good old-fashioned kind of grit and determination, persistence and resistance. I wish I could say, here's the magic bullet. I'm afraid there isn't one. What I would say is, you've just got to be not only determined, but you do have to be passionate about what you're doing. As you'll know, Neil, you eat a lot of dirt on the journey. So unless you're passionate, and it's usually the passion that gives rise to the other attributes of just determination and grit. But unless you're passionate, it's pretty tough.
So what's next for you, and indeed Persuit? And what's your primary focus going to be in 2020? I mean...
look, for us, it's all about customer success and satisfaction. Okay, so making sure that the customers we've got on board are continuing to be successful, and we're continuing to deliver a best of breed product to ensure that success. Of course, growing those customers is important to us too. But even moving beyond that, Neil, we've got grander visions than just legal. The kind of problem we're looking to solve right now really exists across all professional services. That is, the ability to know what something should cost at any particular point in time. And anything that's driven by hourly rates and high hourly rates has the same problem that we're trying to solve. So certainly 2020 will be not only about making sure our existing customers are happy and successful, growing the customer base, but actually expanding beyond legal to other professional services that are based on the hourly or the daily rates, such as management consulting, accounting, the IT services, typically suffering from the same problem of lack of transparency and competition in the marketplace.
And I'm curious, when you look back and when you made that decision, that tough decision, you and your wife had that conversation. Yeah. What do you say now? Do you ever look back?
So there's a couple of things, I suppose. Firstly, when I did have that discussion with my wife, it was a beautiful comeback. She said, "Sweetheart, you can do whatever you like, just as long as you know that my lifestyle won't change." And that was our deal, Neil. Her lifestyle or our lifestyle wouldn't change, and I can do what I want. That was fine. So looking back now, the great thing, I think, is what I call founder naivety. Yeah. Okay, because, and I mentioned this point before, if you really knew how hard it was and what the chances were, because lots of things have to go right. You can be passionate and lots of grit and determination, but the stars have got to align, your timing has got to be right, and you've got to get lucky, and all of those things into place. So if I actually really knew the chances, I thought, at the beginning, if someone actually did a table and said, here's the real chances of success, no rational human being would probably take the risk. So what I'm really grateful for is not undertaking that kind of assessment and not having that information. Because having now gone through the journey and where we're at and the success that we're having, wouldn't replace it for the world. It's been so far, it's been an absolute fantastic journey, and I'm really excited about the journey ahead and the success that we'll be able to deliver clients in the future.
Fantastic. And for anyone listening that would love to find out more information about Persuit, your journey, or just got a few questions after listening to our conversation today, can you just remind them the best way to find you online and reach out and contact your team?
Fantastic. They can certainly just reach out to me. So it's just Jim@Persuit, Persuit.com. So certainly feel free to reach out to me, and you can find out a little bit more about us on our website, www.persuit, again, Persuit.com. But certainly, Neil, if anyone's got any questions, love to reach out and learn more. Feel free to shoot me an email, and we'll get in touch.
Well, as I approach nearly 1,000 episodes, this is one of those that's going to stay with me for a long time. That is, like I say, I do get to hear about so many different tech startup stories, but it's the human journey behind it and diving in. And I just know that there's going to be somebody somewhere listening in the world and going to have or close to having that similar conversation with their partner. And I think just hearing your words of encouragement there might just give them that.
I bet you say that to all your guests, Neil. Very great.
But more than anything, my friend, a big thank you for coming on and sharing that story.
Fantastic, Neil. Thanks very much. I really enjoyed it.
What a story. I absolutely love this one. And I wasn't just giving Jim lip service there. I genuinely love this story because how he spent 15 years as a high-powered lawyer in Australia and Dubai, and then suddenly deciding that the industry wasn't doing its clients right. And nobody knew what a fair price for lawyers was in a world where everyone was getting overpaid. Make it at that point and making his decision to quit his job, move to the US and build Persuit and allow clients to offer up legal projects for law firms to bid on is truly inspirational. And huge kudos for his wife as well for giving him a gentle nudge in the right direction, but of course more than anything, supporting him. And the rest, as they say, is history. And I'm going to be completely honest with you here. I could listen to stories of unconventional founders disrupting a huge industry all day long. These are my favourite kind of stories. But what did you think? As always, please email me, techblogwriter@outlook.com, tweet me at Neil C. Hughes, or visit my website, techblogwriter.co.uk. And also, of course, let me know your Matt Catalina upgrade stories and workarounds. And also, don't forget to send over your virtual voicemails for our 1000th episode celebration, which should be coming next week. 1000 episodes heading into 2020. It all feels a little bit Buck Rogers to me, so I'm going to walk off into the sunset now and ponder that. Huge thank you to Jim for that inspirational story today, and an even bigger thank you to each and every one of you listening wherever you are in the world. We'll do it all again tomorrow, but until next time, don't be a stranger.
Thank you for listening to the Tech Talks Daily Podcast with Neil C. Hughes. Remember, technology works best when it brings people together.